In this video, I am going to share the best paying dividend companies listed in Nairobi Stock Exchange. And by the end of this video, I hope you are going to find out that just because a company pays 50 shillings and it is trading at around 800 shillings or 1000 shillings doesn't mean that that is a good paying dividend company. And also, if a company pays 0.5 shillings per share, it is trading at around 6 shillings per share, doesn't mean that that is a bad dividend paying company. These are some of the things which you need to take into serious consideration if you are one of those investors who is interested to invest because of dividends. If you are interested to invest because you want to gain some income through dividends, you need to take into serious consideration, for example, how much a company shares with its investors in terms of dividends. What is the dividend yield? Those are essential factors which you need to take into serious consideration. In this list which I'm going to mention, you are going to find out that in Kenya at the moment, currently, banks are doing a phenomenal job, which doesn't mean that it is going to work business as usual. Maybe there are some industries, there are some sectors which may go ahead and perform well compared to the banks in the near future. So without wasting much of your time, but before that, if you really don't like this video, don't subscribe, don't share, and also don't like. Now, the first company is Stanbic Chartered Bank. Standard Chartered Bank, not Stanbic. That is the highest paying dividend in Kenya. It paid 45 shillings. The figures you need to go and counter check. And the ratio or the dividend yield was 14.52%. That was in 2025. So it did an amazing job. So if you are interested and you want to invest just because of dividends, then this Standard Chartered Bank is your number one priority. Another bank which followed second was British East Africa Tobacco. It paid a dividend of 55 shillings. So you can see Standard Chartered Bank paid a dividend of 45 shillings per share, which was a dividend yield of 14.52%, while British East African Tobacco paid 55 shillings in total in terms of dividend, but the dividend yield was 11.46%, which shows you that the share price and the dividend don't really matter as such. But what really matters is the dividend yield it paid out to its shareholders. The one which comes third is a bank. British Tobacco deals with cigarettes. So if you are one of those individuals who doesn't find kind of it immoral to invest in tobacco, you can just go ahead and invest in British Tobacco because in terms of dividends, it's doing an amazing job. How do we say the mother than influence? Anyway, let's move forward. Another one which comes number 3 is Stanbic Bank. I told you banks are doing an amazing job in Kenya. So its dividend yield was 11.46%. It paid the exact amount in terms of shillings I was unable to find out. Another bank, not another bank now, we move to the agricultural sector. If you are interested to invest in the agricultural sector, the institution which you could have invested and it paid good dividends was Kapchorwa Tea. It paid a total of 35 shillings per share, which was 10.60%. It was amazing. So you can see it was 35 shillings per share, which was great. So if you are interested in dividends, just go ahead. Kapchorwa Tea did an amazing job. Now, this is going to give you an illustration of what I mentioned earlier. Now, it's Liberty Insurance. I believe they do deal with insurance sector. They paid a dividend of 1.6 shillings, 1.61 shillings per share, which was 10.45% as a dividend yield, and its share price, I believe it's around 10 shillings per share. It shows you that it's not how much in terms of figures a company needs to pay to ensure or to understand that that company is a high dividend paying. So we have companies like Capchorati, which paid that 5 shillings, but we have also a company like Liberty, which paid 1.6 shillings. And you see, they are among the top listed companies, which were high paying dividend companies in Nairobi Stock Exchange. Another company which follows is Kenyan. Kenyan deals with electricity. It is responsible for generating electricity in Kenya. It generates around 75% of the electricity which Kenyans use. It paid 0.9 shillings per share, which is 9.37% in terms of dividend yield. So you see Liberty was higher there, but it paid somehow less. Am I right? Not really. The explanation which I wanted to give out can't be reflected in what I am going to share. Now, another company which came after Kengen is I&M Bank. I told you banks are doing amazing in Kenya. They are killing it. It paid 1.5 shillings per share, a dividend of 7.11%. That's great. Another company which paid a high dividend is Williamson Tea. It paid 10 shillings per share. Now this I can try to explain what I really wanted to explain earlier. So Williamson Tea, it's paying 10 shillings per share, but it comes bottom when you compare it with companies like Kengen and Liberty. Liberty paid 1.6 shillings per share, but they are higher there in terms of best paying dividend companies in Kenya. And the main reason is the share price of Liberty and also Kengen is around 10 shillings and 9 shillings. But when it comes to Williamson Tea, the share price rates at currently it's around 150 shillings per share, and I have also observed these companies trading at around 230 shillings per share. So you can see that the amount of shillings which a company pays in terms of dividends doesn't really reflect whether it's a good company in terms of giving out the dividends or it's not a good company. After Williamson Tea, we have Capacide. That's where I received some of my dividends from. Capacide, I invested when it was 2 shillings, not 2 shillings, but around 22 shillings per share. And I have made some progress in capital gains. They are trading at around 30 shillings per share to 32 shillings per share. That's around 8 shillings in capital gains. And they paid dividends of 2 shillings per share. This I didn't even need to go ahead and do research because I received some of the dividends. Now, the dividend yield was 6.53 shillings per share, which is great. Another one, now this is a good example. I told you to wait until the last one. This is going to give you one of the most important lessons which you need to realize before investing in any given dividend paying company, whether it is in Nairobi Stock Exchange or in international stocks. The company is Umeme. Umeme, it paid a dividend of 8 shillings and 0.5 cents, which was 92.12% in terms of dividend yield. The price when these dividends were trading, it was selling at around 17 shillings per share. Currently, it is selling around 8 shillings per share. And why is it that? Why is not the price moving upward? It's because Umeme was so responsible in distributing electricity in Uganda. But that contract, it ended. They don't have that contract anymore. And they were generating much of their benefits, much of their profits from distributing electricity in Uganda. Now that investment is no longer there, and that's why the share price of Umeme is not promising. So, would you go ahead and invest in Umeme? It's your own perspective, but it's your own opinion. But if I was the person who is interested to invest in any Umeme shares, I would not do that. So those are some of the things which you really need to take into consideration before making any investments in the companies which you are interested. And also have Cooperative Bank. It's one of the best paying dividend companies or banks in Kenya, but it is not mentioned here. Also, we have KCB, Kenya Commercial Bank. It's one of the best paying dividends paying companies or banks in Kenya, but it's not mentioned here. So you need to realize that just because you are aware it came out in the ministry media that it pays dividends well, doesn't really mean that when it comes to facts. What are your thoughts? If you found some value, don't subscribe, don't share, and also don't like. See you in my next one.